Republican Senator James Risch is the new chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Our Nick Schifrin sat down with him today.
Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let me start with the news. The president felt compelled yesterday to come out of the White House and say that I am not a Russian agent. The president's rhetoric is often defensive of President Vladimir Putin, and the president of the United States often reflects Russian priorities rhetorically. Do you believe the president of the United States acts in ways that helps Russia?
You know, I really don't. He has a list of things that he's done as far as Russia's concerned, and these are not good people that we're dealing with. And we know it. The president knows it, and we put sanctions on them. We're gonna continue to do that. So as far as Russia's concerned, there's no feeling in this town by anybody that I know of that we're dealing with human beings that can be trusted or that we should be embracing.
President Trump has parroted Russian propaganda about the Soviet invasion into Afghanistan, about Montenegro, even calling the U.S. military's exercises in East Asia war games, which is what Vladimir Putin calls them.
I've talked to the president about Russia on a number of occasions, and he's fully aware of the issues there and the kind of people that we're dealing with. We're spending an inordinate amount of time now talking about Russia simply because of the factors that they have done lately. The largest concern of ours should be China. If they continue to go down ways that are not in keeping with the rule of law, that is a serious, serious problem that we've got to counter. A good example of that, the poster child, is probably the South China Sea. I mean, that's a very aggressive move by China to expand their geographic influence and control. The way that they have misappropriated everything we've got, from patents to artistic talent and everything else, causes you to have to rethink the kinds of things that you're doing.
I was reading a story by the Post-Register about Idaho potato farmers, and the story said potato exports and values have dropped because of retaliatory tariffs imposed in response to the president's tariffs. So is the president's confrontational stance on trade worth it if it causes short-term pain for your constituents?
Well, there's always short-term pain when you're elbowing to get a leg up on the opposition. Look, my family's in the ag business. We're in the same position, and the markets in agriculture wax and wane. In this particular case, the pain that's being felt is significantly more in China than it is in the United States right now.
I want to move to the Middle East. Should the United States withdraw from northern and northeast Syria?
I think that the rollout of this was done on Twitter as opposed to a deep, in-depth paper on the position.
Should it have been done differently?
But look, the president understands that we can't leave the Kurds behind, and he's been very vocal on that in recent days. He also understands that in Syria, we're going to have situations we very well may have to respond to. We have to have platforms to respond to it from, and we have those platforms in adjacent countries. That's correct, and that'll work.
The number one goal has been to destroy ISIS.
Correct.
And the withdrawal plan requires Turkey to go in and help with that effort or complete that effort. Turkey has called Syrian Kurds, the U.S. partner whom you mentioned, terrorists. Is Turkey focused on destroying ISIS rather than attacking the Syrian Kurds, and is it capable of doing that by itself?
The Turks, in my judgment, are not as sophisticated as they should be in dealing with the Kurds. They paint all the Kurds with the same brush. With the Turks, they are allies of ours, but we cannot condone, nor will we condone, them going in and doing atrocities against the Kurds.
One of the administration's goals in Syria is to evict Iran. That doesn't necessarily have to happen with U.S. troops, but do you worry that the removal of U.S. troops from northern and northeast Syria reduces the leverage of diplomatic efforts, of economic efforts to try and evict Iran from Syria?
I would doubt that you can argue that 2,000 troops there would get that job done.
Secretary of State Pompeo delivered a comprehensive criticism of President Obama's Middle East policy last week, and President Obama pivoted away from Saudi Arabia, tried to pivot away from Saudi Arabia and toward Iran. Do you fear at all that the administration has gone too far in the other direction and defended Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, despite questions of the war in Yemen, which has killed tens of thousands of civilians, and despite Jamal Khashoggi's murder?
You've touched on the problem in the region, and the problem in the region is Iran. Every time we have a problem, they've got their fingerprints on it. Iran regime is not a regime to be embraced. The great hope there is the Iranian people. They are a proud people with a long history. They don't want what they got going in there either, and we ought to do everything we can to help them get to where they want to be.
But does confronting Iran require backing a young crown prince in Saudi Arabia?
I think what you need to focus on is Iran. That whole thing in Yemen could end tomorrow if Iran would just wash their hands of it and step away.
You're an ally of the president. Your predecessor was more critical of the president. Do you see your role as conducting oversight on the president's foreign policy or enacting some of the president's agenda or something else?
Look, I want to work with the president. If the president is successful, America will be successful. Everyone in America should wish the president success. Like all things, some things we agree on, other things we don't agree on. But when you have issues on these kinds of things, they are best resolved one-on-one and not arguing on the front page of the newspaper. Now, your colleagues in the media would disagree with that, but we've been very successful in Idaho as far as operating our state, and we've done it by trying to resolve things personally, and I'll work on that with the President of the United States.
Chairman Risch, thank you very much.
Thank you.